How many of you have gotten the camera? Hey guys, Omar here for another Fuji X-T20 video, and look who we have with us. In this video, we're gonna look at manual focusing. Why would you want a manual focus? What's the best time to use it? And how it works awesomely on the Fuji X-T20. A couple of notes on the camera. One thing to be careful with, this lens hood a couple of times, I've bumped it, and it's kind of twisted a little bit, and it shows up on your photos. So you have to be careful with that. That's something that I'm gonna look into, maybe a better, it's kind of plasticky, you hear that? The lens hood that comes with it. So I know they sell some really nice metal ones, that's something to look into. Next, I ordered a grip for it, secret grip. I'll tell you what's coming. Once that comes out, I'll show you the grip that I got for the camera to have the option for it to be a little bigger. I still enjoy it being this small. Kind of like having it be very stealth, very small in a bag. So grip on all the time to be determined. Another thing is last night I used the camera at my daughter's recital, and I could see a lot of people using it that way as like a little, video camera instead of what we used to use. So I had two cameras. I had the 5D Mark IV with a 70 to 200 lens on. That lens has IS on there. It's great in low light. And I have the Fuji 18 to 55, which is great because it has image stabilization. One thing with a lot of the Fuji lenses, especially the primes, is they don't have image stabilization. So this 18 to 55 is awesome because you can use it for video as well. I set the camera to be EVF only, which is great when you're recording somewhere where there's people around you so we don't bother anyone. But the video that was coming out in here, awesome. Very crisp, very clean. We had our ISO a little bit too low, so the images are a little dark, but we will get better. But the Canon for video, with that 70 to 200, just damn. All right, let's talk about why would you want to manually focus to begin with. Let me take this lens hood off. Oh my God, it looks so much cooler. Look at that, baby. Why would you want to manually focus? One reason is if you're working with macro or detailed or small things. Let's say you are taking a picture of a flower. If you have the camera on a tripod, I can't talk. Red leather, yellow leather. If you have the camera on a tripod, or if you're holding it very still, you can even zoom in and pick manual focus on the specific spot you want to focus on. Do you want to focus on the front of that flower, the middle, or the back? Or instead of just waiting for the camera to choose the autofocus point that it wants, you know what you want. So that's why you use manual focus for things that are very small and very close. Note, every lens has a minimum focus distance. So if you're trying to focus and you're saying, my camera can't focus, every lens has a minimum focus distance, okay? So you have to find that for your lens. Next, you know what? It's for fun, for more control. Autofocus is awesome. I like to use autofocus to get me there, and then while I'm looking through the viewfinder, I like to fine tune. Sometimes if you have focus at something close and you want to focus at something far, it makes no sense to manually focus because you got to keep turning the dial to reach that distance. Instead, you can autofocus, and then looking through the viewfinder or the back of the screen, you can fine tune whatever you want to get. You want to get that fence in focus, or you want to get the person who's in front of the fence even more in focus. Third, another reason a lot of street photographers use manual focus is because there's no time to autofocus. I know that sounds weird. If they're going to shoot people who are on the street and they're being stealthy, you could do something called what's called zone focus. That means you turn your autofocus completely off and you manually focus, let's say 6 feet in front of you. You test it, and then you keep your aperture somewhere, where there's a lot of depth of field, like f8, f11. And if you're walking around with the camera, you can always, if something's around 6 to 8 feet away from you, it will be in focus. You actually don't need to autofocus, and the camera is ready to go. So if you're like running and gunning, bam! Now the way I have my camera set up is actually, I have it always on manual focus, on the little M. But my back button right here is focus. What's great about the Fuji X-T20 and probably the other Fuji X series cameras is that even though it's in manual focus, you have autofocus ready for you in two places for me. One is the back button focus. As soon as I hit that button, If I hit this one, it doesn't do anything because it's on manual focus. If I hit the back one, it turns into autofocus all of a sudden, which is great. The other thing, which is exclusive to the Fuji X-T20, ding, is I can touch focus. Touch focus works even though you're in manual focus. And I found that's a huge benefit because I like using manual focus, but just to get to that spot, like I told you, the fence, I could just touch, and then zoom in and focus. Yeah, love it, love that. Just checking my white balance, guys. Backer on the front and 2 images in the back just to test out. So although it's in manual focus, the touchscreen is always active, which is great. You just have to make sure this little thing is set to autofocus. If you have it to off, it won't work. Now you have some options to help you manually focus. This back wheel, if you push it once, you get a zoom in. If you turn it to the right, it goes even more zoomed. Now something weird that's happening, I thought I could touch the screen and sort of scroll around, but if I touch the screen, it actually takes a picture. I don't know why it does that. I also have tried zooming in and using the directional pad. Can I move around? No, it just goes right to the grid. So you actually have to pick your focus point first, and then you zoom in and it zooms in where you want. I can't move around the picture. I wish I could. Pick a spot, zoom, you know, that's a little cumbersome. I wish that once I'm zoomed, I can move around the picture. The other thing that's cool while you're in manual focus is if you go to your menu and you go to the autofocus manual focus setting and you go to focus check, if that's turned on, if I touch my focus ring, as soon as I touch the focus ring, it zooms in automatically. You have to hit this button to just bring it back, the back button. Touch the lens and it zooms right away. I'm not so crazy about that option because I found that I bump the lens. If I just touch it a little bit, it zooms in, and I find that I'm constantly, when I was trying with that option, I'm hitting the display back button. Instead, I have that one set to off, and this ring right here, if you push it, does the same thing. There we go, we zoom in, and now we can completely fine tune our focus just by looking at it. Now the camera does come with some options to help you out. They're called manual focus assist. I really don't like any of them except, here it is, manual focus assist. I really like standard. Standard is just your vision. Things get blurry, things get sharp. They have one that's called monochrome split image. So if you zoom in, you get like this little sort of split. I can't even show it to you because like I could barely even see it myself. But you get a split image that you have to line up. You can kind of see it around her hair, I guess. Yeah, you can kind of see it like there's like a split thing. Bottom line, I don't find it very useful at all. There's one that it's called Focus Peak Highlight. I'll do red high, so it's crazy. So I'm gonna touch to focus there. It gives you like a weird red edge that tells you what's in focus. Let me zoom less. So here we have like her hair is focused, and then if I move it, you can actually see the red that goes to her eyes. Okay, if I go back here, let's see if that turns. See, that turned all red there. So that helps you at least know what area. I find it distracting. I find that it's in the way. I don't like the red or the blue. Pretty much if I'm using manual focus, I'm just using standard. Quickly to go through the manual focus assist options is you just hold down the wheel and it goes between them. So hold it down, digital split, hold it down, goes to the color one. Okay, let's say you're in video mode. Right now the camera, I set it to video mode and I hit the middle button. It can help you zoom as well. So right now you can manually focus your shot before you start your video. You can even zoom in more, make sure that your video is however sharp you want it. There it's sharp on her hair, and then you can, start recording or whatever. So it does work on video mode as well. Okay, I'm gonna switch my camera to autofocus to show you something that involves manual focus as well. So if you go to AF plus MF on, so now I have autofocus set. So I'm gonna half hold my shutter and I get a green box that tells me I'm focused and also a green dot. But now if I hold, you actually have to hold. Now I use the back button, but if you use the shutter, it's the same thing. While you're holding it, if you twist the lens, if you're on autofocus and you try, right now I'm trying to twist my lens, nothing happens. But with this option, half holding, you have manual available to you. So I do like having that autofocus, manual focus check. you know, where I can just twist the lens and have it on while I'm half holding the shutter. So that's another way you can use manual focus on the fly, which I kind of like, is really cool. Loving that option, loving it. Something else to think about if you're in an autofocus mode and you're trying to zoom and it's not working, you need to be in single point mode. If I switch to zone focus, remember that's the focus where the camera is kind of picking from a grid that you choose. If I try to zoom in now, it does not work. And it also will not work in the wide tracking. Okay, so just make sure you're in single focus mode. All right, another option you have is a visual indicator on distance. Batgirl right now is about 18 inches away, almost 2 feet, not quite 1 foot. So at the bottom, you can actually see if I turn, it tells you the distance. So she's between, right before you hit 2 feet, she'll be in sharp focus, which makes sense. I measured, you don't believe me? You don't believe me? Look, I got a ruler, look. If you focus further away, you have these little blue indicators left and right. That tells you how much depth of field you have. So since she's so close and she's so small, there's barely any blue. That means your, whoa, picture taken. That means your depth of field is tiny. But if you go all the way, you know, downtown over here, if you're shooting something far away, then your depth of field is really far. All right, there you have it, guys. Another Fuji X-T20 video, this one on manual focus. I hope that helped you out there, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much. Damn.